Welcome back from the commercial break. We are looking at the old style versus the new style of leadership, and there is a lot that we are learning. And now, you as a leader or an aspiring leader or anyone in an institution, an entity where you are, you can now look at the way things are run, and you tell which kind of style that particular decision has come on board. Because there's situations where everyone is engaged, where they call for a general meeting and they call for everyone's involvement, and then there are times where you just see an order coming up and how did we reach here? But we talked about employee engagement and motivation. Now we want to talk about change in management, because now you realize from the two traits, from the traits of the two forms of leadership, you realize that management styles are totally different. So what happens in the new style where everyone is empowered to be part of the system, contrary to the other where this is the supervisor? He will come, or they'll come and give me orders, and I'll do what they have told me to do. And the new style, we see that you come up with an idea and just share it with your supervisor. Mm-hmm. So does this cause controversies in the systems?
Wait, I'm not too sure.
No.
In the new style or in the old style?
In the new style. Doesn't it cause crashing here and there?
When everybody's giving their opinion?
Yes.
See, it requires a lot of emotional intelligence from the leader. A lot of emotional intelligence. You need to know your people, but even if you're listening to them, you need to have boundaries. I watched a series recently, and it was a father having a business with a son. So the father, of course, is the old style. The son is the Gen Z, not even millennial, the Gen Z generation. And so for him, this is, of course, not our setting. This is the Western setting. You have people coming into work with what are those blades, those things where people roll on, roller coaster, I don't know what they're called, the blades. People come in work when they're rolling. There's a pool table in the middle. There's an open policy. There are no closed doors. Nobody has their own offices. Everybody works in an open space. There's a pool table in case you want to relax. There is coffee. There are snacks in case you want to do something. And so the father comes in and he's very disturbed because people are playing pool, people are rolling in on that skater thing, they are having snacks on the side, and he's asking his son, when do people actually work? And so the father is so disturbed. He puts charts for people to clock in. No, sign in when you come. Sign in, you must sign in. I'm not understanding. When you're done playing with your game, come and sign in, because I'm going to pay you per the hours you have worked, as opposed to just you people are playing. The father was very disturbed. So he went at the son went at him. Their styles were clashing back and forth. The father believed in the old style. You came in, clocked in, that you were going to work, started your hours of work. If you took a break, the break was meant to be a reasonable break according to him, and then finish the work. And so the styles continued to clash. Over time, they noticed that in the first time that the people were given leeway to do what they thought was right for their generation, they made a profit. When the father began to clamp down on them, they began to drop. Why? The morale of the people was dropping. And so the measurement then became, what then do you employ? And then to your question, one of the things that bothered the father is, as the son was standing talking to him, one of the employees pulled, I think, juice out of the son's hand and went on to take it. And the father said, nobody sees you as a boss. They see you as one of them. And I was on the line on that particular one, because I'm both new and old, depending on which side you function. When it comes to discipline and timeliness, I'm in the old. When it comes to how we can be creative and innovative, I'm in the new. So for me, I believe that a combination of the best of both can bring you what you want. I think that in the end, what the father was trying to teach the son is that if people don't see you as the leader and they see you as their colleague, you're not going to get the kind of profits that you wanted. Of course, the Syrian, it goes on to highlight the differences between the two. But that's the weakness about the new style, is that people begin to see you as a colleague and as a friend. And so when you give an order, everybody will become very familiar with you. And that's the problem we are facing with this generation. To be truthful, it doesn't matter whether it's ministry, whether it's work, whether it's home, whether it's whatever way, whether it's government, that is the scenario we stand in. That people want the new style of leadership. People want to be given a platform to speak. But then I think what is lacking and what the new style should take on is they should never drop respect. Respect is something that for me will never go out of style, because the more you inculcate respect in the workspace, in the home space, in those different places, you are able to churn out the best of people. Respect is what will make people stop and think better when they come to when they become too familiar with you as the leader. And as a leader, you need to try and draw the line that there's a time for playing, there's a time for doing some things. This is what one of my former bosses did for me. I was just coming into the workspace. No, I had been there for a while, but I was moving from more as the CSO world to the more corporate world. And so the CSO world is an NGO who is more laid back. You wore what you want to work and you did certain things. The corporate world is corporate with certain standards. And so one of my mentors then and bosses did this for me. I remember I was very cheeky and stubborn, still am really. And I always had this back and forth with him in his office. I'd have the back and forth, I'd disagree, he would agree, disagree, he would agree. Now, outside of the office, most people knew he was strict, principled, straight to the point. He said it and you did it. I didn't understand, because when I was with him, I could do what I wanted. And so I carried our behind the doors argument, I remember, to a meeting where he was in charge and people looked at him as a boss. And when we walked back into the office and I put his books where he wanted, he closed the door and told me, there's a space for you and I to have that chit-chat back and forth. You can do it with me here inside. Outside here, it doesn't happen. I didn't even question it. I understood it. And I appreciate him to death for doing that. Because it was the small things that he began to touch on that made me the woman I am today. It was the dress code that he said. He began to critique the hair, the way it was done. Now, ordinarily, most people would be offended, but I saw it as a way to improve myself. And so suddenly I wasn't doing everything that everybody else was doing. My dress code changed, the hair changed, how I interacted with people changed. You see, he just needed to polish a few parts. He found the raw material, polished a few parts, and presented somebody to the world that people could look up to for leadership. And so that when you have clashes like that, do what my boss did: close the room, have a conversation, and say there's a space for this, there's a space for this. And when people understand that they still have leeway to be themselves and feel valued, and you just need to separate the spaces, I think it still gives you the best of both worlds.
Okay. There is something we are seeing coming up, especially in titles. Gone are the days where we had people being addressed as director, managing director, a chief executive officer. Today we have people call themselves team leader, founder. Are they trying to fit in the new trends of leadership so that the title doesn't sound so sophisticated and fancy?
I think that's more or less in the NGO world and the CSO world. They're the ones who are changing their fancy titles, or they're giving themselves a fancy title for different things. Corporate world is not quite changing it much. But I think the culture that's changing with the corporate world is addressing people by their name, as opposed to Sir or Mr., changing things by their names. But I've found that the team leader, chief steward, chief that, all those things that confuse us are more or less in the NGO world and the CSO world, and the world where it's not quite the corporate entity the way that you know it. I'm not seeing that changing a lot in the corporate world, at least not from the ones I've interacted. I could be wrong, but it's not what I'm seeing changing in the corporate world. What I see happening in the corporate world is people are beginning to address people by their name as opposed to Sir and Mr. And also, I think it also comes down to the fact that the bosses are becoming younger and younger all the time, and so the difference between you and your supervisor may just be 2 years, maybe 2 years. It may be 2, it may be 4, and sometimes
the supervisor can be younger than you.
Oh God. But you see, it is. It can, and it happens. It really does. It really does. Yeah, I mean, especially in private businesses, that's usually what happens. But if you have someone that's younger, you better be very, very, very careful. Why? Because if they even sense a bit of familiarity or disrespect, they're going to clamp down on you. They're going to clamp down on you. And so you have to be careful with respect and boundaries as much as you can. And so I think in the corporate world, what is changing is addressing people by their names as opposed to their titles.
Doesn't it also look at as a way of familiarity?
It depends on how secure the leader is and how emotionally intelligent they are. In one of my previous workplaces, I because of my nature and my character, me and the boss were very alike. We're both sanguine, and we could be loud, and we were the loudest people in the office. And so because of that, I would address him by his name. But when I wanted something serious, I added the title Mr. I titled Mr. And then I also found it to be truthful as a girl.
Someone would say, you're up to something each time you call him Mr.
No. When I said the word Mr., I'm drawing the line. We are no longer in a game or just a discussion. We have crossed the line. And I think it was inadvertently telling the person we are past games. Yeah, I could say your name, and then when we are bantering back and forth, but when it came to work or in the middle of chat, I would say Mr. Yeah, it's the same. There's a way someone changes their tone or changes the way they address you that you now realize we've crossed.
This is more serious.
Yes, and as a lady, I think I found that very useful for me, especially when you have bosses who are ahead of you that are male. Males like to take advantage of girls as often as you see it, and especially if you're a younger girl, they like to take advantage. And so what I did for me as a protection is I addressed people by their titles to tell you there's a barrier between you and I. Don't cross that barrier. And so even if somebody said, oh no, let's go out and chat and have something to do, I said, Mr. So-and-so, I think our work is done here and we need to move on. Or honorable so-and-so. I even say honorable to remind you of your title, lest you have forgotten your title. And so we do that as a protection mechanism, especially for me as when I was much younger in the profession, and even now. And also as a way of showing this is still the boundary between you and I. It's professional, it's not casual.
Okay. Now we want to wind up with ethical dilemmas. How are they managed in both styles of leadership? How are the ethical dilemmas managed in the old, and how are the ethical dilemmas managed in the new style of leadership?
In the old style, it depends. One, there were always systems and structures to deal with them when they came up. And so the system and structure would come in such a way that when something came up, you had a TO, you had a policy. You had a policy that says this is how we approach this, that, and that. Not a bad system. In fact, any lawyer will tell you it's a good system. Do you have paperwork that backs what you do? What you do. And so you would have a policy for, let's say, sexual harassment that came up, a policy for bribery in case of corruption, a policy for accidents at work, a policy for... So all those things that came up during work, there was a policy for it in the old system. And the policies are very good. Why? Because they save you from making a decision where it's based on emotion. And so it's a good checking mechanism for the old style, because people had policies, they were in place, and people interacted with them. A key resource in that was always human resource, because human resource acted sort of as a mediator between the boss and the people. Well, that's what people expected, but usually they fell towards the boss. So human resource followed the human resource policy and manuals. And so the human resource was sort of a mediator to give you a clear guideline on where you stand. Of course, they implemented what the boss wanted, but they were key resource there to help minimize the damage in such cases. And so the old knew how to deal with the staff based on that human resource policy that came up. So those were the two major things in the old. In the new style...
Before you talk about the new style, where does the disciplinary committee now comes in? In the old? All?
I think it should be both, but it was mostly practiced in the old. The new style does everything to avoid reaching disciplinary. And I've noticed it. They do everything to avoid. They will coach, coerce. They will do everything to find a way not to end up in disciplinary. Why? Because we've also become a very litigious society. And so anything that is disciplinary, there are steps that you need to follow. And if you bypass any of them, you're going to end up in litigation. So it's a difficulty. The new style has found a way of trying to avoid disciplinary. It hasn't taken it away, but it's finding ways to work around it. And they do that by prevention as opposed to head on. It has not done away with it. But in the old, disciplinary was actually really a thing to look forward to, or a thing that curtailed people on how far they could go. You knew that if I crossed a certain boundary or a certain area, then I would be disciplined. And so because of that, you were able to curtail yourself. In the new, again, with ethical dilemmas, it's more preventive when it comes to disciplinary mechanisms, because they are coaching you, they are mentoring you, they are very big on team building, they are very big on divide and rule, by the way. Very big on divide and rule. I think that's what works. Forming teams, having people, everyone feels valued, so that it can even sometimes become manipulative, because you are friends with the boss, you're also friends with the boss, everyone is giving the boss their idea, and the boss knows what to give you and what to give you and what to give you. And so it can be, depending on the person, it can be manipulative. And so what they do in the new style is you're preventing things such as disciplinary, which is wise in my opinion, because our disciplinary is just, it never leaves anybody the same. Whether you are vindicated or not, the fact that you went through a disciplinary is difficult. It is difficult for anybody. And having that at the back of their minds, or in hindsight, everyone will avoid taking it to a place of disciplinary. You will realize in every institution, disciplinary is the last. They're at the end of their wit's end by the time they put you into a disciplinary. So the new style dealing with ethical dilemmas is it's more preventive at the beginning. They will, and then because they work a lot with people, they have the opportunity to sit down and discuss. It's an open policy, so everybody sits down, everybody knows what is happening, and everybody is a judge in certain things. And when you come to, I think that when you, the beauty also about the old style is accountability. Yeah, when you came to things such as you could take a bribe or not, accountability, you accounted to a board that was higher than you, you accounted to the to maybe a peer out of there, is what helped you. Accountability in the new style has to be deliberate. Yeah, but the guess is that because you're all contributing, you're accountable to everyone. The question is, the question for that style is that you can't really be truthfully and openly accountable to everyone at the same level. And so it will require a high degree of accountability, intentional accountability, that the boss goes out of their way, or the leader goes out of their way to find people they can openly be accountable to beyond just the employees and workers.
Okay, as we wind up this discussion, I would like you to re-echo the need to incorporate both both styles in an entity, because I realize they both have their unique advantages that really an institution need to leverage on.
I think that the old has a time to, they have a role to play in guiding and coaching the new style of leaders. No one style is perfect. Just one has more advantages than the other, and one is working with the future of leadership. And so, what the old style of leadership has to do is play their critical role in passing the mantle, in giving guidance, in showing the people that leadership has its pitfalls, and so that the new breed of leaders will be who are more connected to their employees, who are more empathetic, can be open to change. They can open up their hearts. So leadership styles continue to evolve as the world changes, and the most adaptable leader is the one that is going to succeed. In the end, it is what role does the old have to play towards the new? Because as the world evolves, the new style is taking the forefront. And so learn from the old, practice the new, and allow both styles to make you a wonderful leader.
Thank you so much, Dianah. From this discussion, wow, I've been enlightened, and yeah, now I know how to deal with certain things. And fortunately, the person on camera is one of my supervisors. So from this discussion, he also knows how to deal with some of us who are equally sanguines like you. But thank you so much for this enlightenment, and to your viewer, thank you so much for really tuning in to watch a Family Hour. Today, we shall end it here. Tomorrow is parenting, so remember and endeavor to tune in at the same time and same station. Edwin Mkalazi is my name. I've worked with Jonah Jal, I've worked with Didmas in transmission, and very many other people, Andrew, and a very big team putting things together to see that you have this image. From the entire team, it's a good